last thing that I'm going to add is a little bit of movement to this line. So notice if I keep my mouse still that the dots don't move, but the line has this kind of like jiggle effect. And what I'm going to use as part of this is P5's noise. So noise is kind of different than random. Random is just completely unlinked, whereas noise is linked together. So it's quite a fun little thing to add in. So how do we add some noise to this? Well, what I'm going to do is add it just to the line. So this is all to do with this kind of point here. The one thing that we can't do is make a vector for this. So I'm going to make it as two separate things. I'm going to add in a constant called nx, which is the noise in the x direction. For now, this is just going to be equal to 5, and a constant called ny, which is also going to be equal to 5. And I'm just going to add them into the line. So by default, what that will be is it'll just have the line being 5 pixels in each direction. That's ny in each direction more. So again, if we go back, you'll see this kind of being off by 5 pixels each way. So what we want to do is add some distortion to this noise as well. So what we're going to do is follow how noise works. The first thing you need to do is add some kind of noise scale. You can see here it's quite often used as a kind of padding on this. So the first thing above all of this I'm going to do at the top of draw is add in an NL noise level. For mine, I'm just going to do 0.01. Now we can start to tweak this a little bit later. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. For now, what we're going to do is make this noise level go between a certain number. So instead of it being 5 and 5, instead what we're going to do is add some noise, make some noise. And instead, what do we need to put in here? So the first one is we're going to times the noise level by point x. We're also going to put in NL times point y. And we're also going to put in NL times the frame count in here as well. So because we want it to be animated and change per frame, we can add all of these things in. So now if we look at the page, we should see something like this. Now it doesn't seem like it's moving because noise level is very, very subtle. So what we're going to do is take all of this and times it by 40. So 40 times all of this noise. And what we should see now in the X direction is this kind of movement just in this one direction. Now you might also notice that this also seems off by around about 20 pixels. And the reason for that is because we're doing 0 to 40 on this side. So I also want to take away 20, so it's between minus 20 and plus 20. At the moment, nx is between 0 and 40 because we times it by 40. Let's just take away 20 from this. So it feels like it's in the middle. So now it kind of feels like it's in the middle of these dots. Obviously it's moving around a little bit, so we can't really tell. What we want next is the same kind of thing for our ny. So I'm going to take this line of code and just going to copy and paste this in. So this is just going to look pretty much the same. It's going to add this kind of movement in exactly the same way. Now what noise level does is it adds the speed to noise. So NL times this, NL times this, NL times this. And originally I put in 0.01. If I increase this up to something like 0.3, you'll get this more jaggedy line in here. If we make this something like 0.1, then it really kind of goes and adds a lot of noise to this. So depending on how much you want to add to this line, we can change how this looks. So I like to do something a little bit more subtle, so 0.1, but this is all to do with the noise of this line. So I'm adding some extra coordinates in here based on this kind of like noise movement, a little bit like randomness in here. So this is kind of a pretty cool thing that we can add in very, very quickly to add some kind of fluid, more natural randomness to it as well. The last thing I'm going to do is just quickly fix this line color. Again, at the moment it's just white. I do want it in the kind of final color, and this is going to be this fill color from up here. We want this to be the right color. Let's make that. And what we have now is basically our final portfolio design. We've added this very quickly. There is a little bit of math involved with this and a bit of vectors, but this is how we can really break apart typography on the web.